Well, thank you very much for that introduction. It's a great pleasure to address this first annual dinner of CILEx, and I'm very grateful to CILEx for hosting this event in a wonderful location, a really innovative way for the church to bring in funds and to give us the opportunity to dine in what is a fantastic location, a beautiful location and spiritual location clearly as well, as it's a working church, but a great privilege for all of us to be here. CILEx, of course, plays a really important role in our legal sector, and I'm really pleased to see how it continues to innovate to deliver legal services. CILEx is also striving to extend the practice rights of its members, which will enable a new generation to provide legal services. And we heard from the President earlier a little bit about the innovation within this organisation and how it's helping people arrive in the profession through different routes in different ways at a time when we all need greater flexibility and greater innovation. The work that CILEx is doing is enormously important. But what I want to do this evening is to take a little time to talk about the challenges that the profession faces, to respond to one or two of the points raised by the President as well. It is undoubtedly a very difficult time for the legal profession. The enormity of the financial challenges the government faces means that change has been and will continue to be inevitable. And I accept, and I'm well aware, how difficult that is for many people in the legal profession. But let me give you a little bit of a reminder of the context for that. 4 years ago, the government was borrowing £1 in every 4 that it spent. You don't have to be much of a mathematician to work out that if any one of us was doing that in our home life, we'd go bust pretty quickly. Taking no action was not an option. The recovery that is beginning to appear now has not happened automatically or by accident. You have to look around the world just to see that. Britain is on the way back because of the difficult choices this government has made. We've had to deal with that challenge at a time when there are immense upward pressures on cost as well. Top of that list of pressures is something that's a positive for all of us. We're all living longer, but that presents a huge financial challenge for us as we face the cost of increased longevity in the form of higher pension and healthcare costs. Again, at a time we're trying to bring down that deficit, and we made big inroads into it, we're also facing significant upward pressures on costs as well. And of course, that's not the only challenge. People on the minimum wage or close to it have faced big increases in household costs. So we've needed to ease the tax burden on them. We've reduced income tax for 25 million people on lower middle income. It doesn't come without a price tag, but it's the right priority to help people at a time of financial strain. Big problems without simple solutions. And of course, our society also has deep-rooted social challenges. So we've needed to fund extra support for children arriving in school from the most difficult of backgrounds. Not for altruistic reasons alone. There are practical long-term benefits to doing so. These are young people where if there is no early intervention, the chances of them ending up in the justice system just goes up and up. All of that leaves a simple reality. We are dealing with huge financial challenges at a time when we need to bring costs down. And that means the public sector, the services it delivers, the services it supports, have to change dramatically. It means we have to find new ways of delivering what we do for less. And not all changes I would wish for, not changes I would welcome, but you have to deal with the world as it is rather than how you'd like it to be. And as many people in this room know, the justice system has not been and cannot be immune from the pressures, immune from the changes that are needed, immune from what lies ahead. I've heard it all said that this change is not necessary, that it's simply a factor of a non-lawyer Lord Chancellor who doesn't understand, respect, or care about the legal system. Nothing could be further from the truth. As I've said, dealing with the financial challenges we face, dealing with the financial challenges the Ministry of Justice faces, isn't a choice, it's a necessity. It has nothing to do with my lack of legal qualifications. Indeed, my predecessor, himself a distinguished QC, was no less convinced of the need for change than I am. And indeed, many of the changes that have already taken place, particularly in relation to legal aid, were introduced by him rather than by me. Now, I happen to believe that not having a legal background does allow me to look afresh at some of the long-standing issues in our justice system. I'm enormously proud of what our justice system has done and what it continues to do. I have immense respect for what I believe is the greatest legal system in the world. I want to preserve that which has been established over the past 800 years. But it is precisely that desire to ensure that the legal profession and our legal system has many hundreds more great years ahead of it that makes me so convinced that we must talk about the challenges that we have to face up to now. Now, you know, the pressures that have built up on our legal system are not the results of decisions taken by one politician, one government, one set of politicians. Many of them are challenges that have been building up for years and years and years and have remained unaddressed. They've been accentuated by the financial crisis, but if they remain unaddressed, they will do long-term damage to justice in this country. That cannot be allowed to happen, and it is why everyone involved in British justice must now grasp the nettle and make sure that our system is in good shape and can live within its means. Don't just take my word for it. No less a figure than the Lord Chief Justice of England and Wales, Lord Thomas, made a powerful speech recently setting out how he believes the system needs to change. And neither of us believe that we need to undermine 800 years of legal tradition if the way we do things adapts to meet the realities of today. Take the example of advocacy in our criminal courts. I've listened carefully to stories of young advocates fighting for scraps of business in the magistrates' courts, and of some deciding to abandon their profession because it's just too financially tough. Now, that is not because of a battle over fee levels in the Crown Court. Magistrates' courts' fees aren't affected by the current debate. It's because there are now, unfortunately, too many people chasing too little work. The work done by Sir Bill Jeffrey for the Bar Council, the Law Society, and the Ministry of Justice on criminal advocacy makes clear that the number of advocates working in our courts has risen significantly in recent years, while the level of crime has fallen. Meaning the only conclusion that can be reached is that there are many more advocates than there is work for them to do so. And if you talk privately to senior advocates, they all recognise and accept that, or most do. Put simply, there isn't enough money or work to go round. That is a challenge which the legal profession will have to face up to. So Bill has put forward some interesting and in many cases compelling recommendations for change. I'm keen that we have a thoughtful dialogue about what he's said. Then there's the question of court process. I'm not someone who believes we need wholesale change to the principles underlying our court processes. Things like trial by jury are central to our system of justice. But there is at the same time no doubt that legal process has become more involved and more complex over the last generation. We need to challenge that, we need to simplify it. If the public purse can afford less for cases, then to counterbalance that change, we need to find ways of reducing the amount of work involved in cases as well. That is why I am delighted that Sir Brian Levison, sitting up here tonight, President of the Queen's Bench Division, is now leading a review of efficiency in criminal court process, showing a great lead by the judiciary. And we're supporting him and that review by looking at how collectively we can simplify what happens in trials, including taking parts of the process out of the courtroom altogether. Making better use of technology, for example, must be a central part of the future. It can save both time and money. We are now injecting significant capital to boost the technology and infrastructure of our court service. We're doing so because we understand that we cannot hope to achieve greater efficiency and lower cost in the long run without the tools to make it possible. This investment opens up new and exciting opportunities for those working in the justice system to take a fresh look at the system and the services you provide and the way you can provide them. It is a time of change in the family courts too. Sir James Mumby is doing already good work to secure a greater degree of transparency in those courts, and he has a strategic vision for the future. It is obvious to me that the changes to the public funding available for those using the family courts is presenting new challenges. That is why we provided funding to assist litigants in person. We're doing more to promote public awareness of mediation. We'll very soon be starting a pilot scheme to provide DNA, drugs, and alcohol testing in private family cases. I do accept that changes we make do have consequences. We cannot ignore that, and we must be prepared to respond, and will continue to look carefully at how we do so. Let me say a quick word about judicial review as well, since the President made that a remark in his speech. I think judicial review is really important. It is a fundamental part of our system. It enables people who believe they have been wronged by public authority to challenge the decisions that got them there. But judicial review is today being used as a campaigning tool by pressure groups. It is being used as a delaying tactic by people who don't like difficult decisions the government has taken. It has been used in cases I cannot possibly justify. On what basis can the judicial review system be said to be working well when a shell company can be set up, can secure a protective costs order against the government, can challenge us over a statutorily sound decision as to what we do about the rather unusual discovery of the body of a past King of England, a case brought by that company, set up by somebody claiming to be a descendant of that King of England. Frankly, I suspect most of us in this room are descendants of him tonight. That case is defeated overwhelmingly in the courts, and you are all paying the bill. Money that could otherwise be put into the Criminal Legal Aid Fund. On what basis do we really think that system is working well? And on what basis do we really think that there is no room for change? I don't think judicial review should be brought on small technicalities where no change would have happened to the decision as a result of that technicality. We have to use it for the purpose it is intended, for people who have come the wrong end of a decision taken by government or local authorities or whatever. It should be a system that is fair, that treats those people justly, and rights wrongs. It should not be a system that is a grandstanding vehicle for too many people in our society to make a point. And that is why it has to change. And at the end of it, when our reforms are in place, we will still have a system of judicial review, which is available to the vulnerable in our society, and will continue to be available. But I hope we will have got back to a system that is being used for the purpose it was designed for, and not the purposes it is now being used for. Now, the changing world also means big challenges for smaller firms and solicitors in particular. The combination of legal aid reductions, the burden of regulation and competition is making life difficult for the sector, I know that. But I do believe there is scope for real innovation to ensure that the public can access the full range of quality local professional services on their high street. That is not just a task for government. And in fact, I don't believe government is really the solution to this problem. I think innovation of the kind CILEx is delivering, cooperation between different professions, other ways for this profession to meet those challenges. But I also believe that we need changes to regulation as well. I've been persuaded, without, it has to be said, too much difficulty, that there is too much of it, that it's too time-consuming, intrusive, particularly for smaller firms, that too much of your time is spent dealing with regulation rather than the job you're there to do. Now, my aim is for a simpler, easier to understand regulatory framework, one that is proportionate, promotes growth and innovation, while also providing the necessary protection for consumers and the wider public interest. I also think there are too many layers of regulators. I have said to Sir Michael Pitt that during his time at the Legal Services Board, success means creating an environment where that organisation is not necessary in the long term. This won't happen overnight, but I am clear that this should be the direction of travel. But in the meantime, I have asked for a clear message from the legal profession about quick wins that would make a real difference now, as well as in the long term. And so a bit of a challenge for you tonight. I have yet to get from the legal profession clear ideas about how I can move quickly to make a difference. My door will continue to be open to those ideas and to you bringing them to me. I want to hear your answers to how we ease that burden, particularly on smaller firms. But this changing world does, I think, create a great opportunity for CILEx members. It is a world which will need greater flexibility and different skill mixes. High-quality legal services are essential to providing a sound environment in which business can thrive. A competitive market in which these services are available at an affordable cost is a huge benefit to UK business and a contributor to economic growth. In addition to leading the way in changing how we deliver legal services, CILEx also offers one of the most flexible routes into the legal profession, and this is reflected in its diverse membership. Achieving a more diverse legal profession is something I believe very strongly in. I commend the progress that's been made in opening up qualification routes to students and practitioners from backgrounds where the legal profession previously seemed beyond reach, the work you're doing on apprenticeships. Really big progress and important progress. So it's a time of real challenge, but also one of opportunity, and we all need to embrace the need for change. Shouldn't be a knee-jerk change for change's sake, but it should be purposeful, thoughtful, considered, based upon evidence, discussion, and debate. It requires the professions and the government to work together. You need to understand the challenge we face. We need to try and make sure that the impact of responding to the challenge we face has as little an impact on the legal profession as we can possibly make it. But only by rising to the challenge and by making real change will we respect our legal history. And when we come next year to mark the anniversary, 800 years of the Magna Carta, I want us to be in a position where we are part of a system that is embracing change, setting itself up powerfully for the next 800 years. Thank you.